Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
CannabisRadio.com presents The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Hey, this is great, man.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes and non-toking lovers of liberty. It is Thursday, October 27th, 2016, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Welcome to the show, everyone, and we are beginning this show with some unfortunate news. Woke up this morning to discover that the Arkansas Supreme Court has invalidated the Issue 7 medical marijuana initiative. It is at this point off the ballot, will not be considered or voted on, even though they've already done early voting out there in Arkansas. Coming up at 5:30, we've got Ryan Denham joining us again on the show. He was with us yesterday promoting Issue 7. Today, we're going to talk about what's happening now. How are they reacting to this decision from the Supreme Court, and how are they going to move forward? So that's coming up at 5:30. Make sure you join us for that. And a very disturbing part of that story is that the lawsuit that invalidated Issue 7, which, by the way, of the two issues concerning medical marijuana, Issue 7 was the one that we liked. It was more friendly to the patients, had more qualifying conditions, and allowed some patients to home grow. This Issue 6 that's still on the ballot has no home grow and far fewer conditions. So the disturbing thing is that the lawsuit was filed by a member of the NORML Legal Committee, a lifetime member named Kara Benka. And so that's really disturbing. And we reached out to NORML for comment on this. And NORML tells me that she has her rights to free speech, and she didn't do it in NORML's name. So they're not going to sanction her in any manner whatsoever. So if you'd like to read more about that, you can find my write-up of it on weednews.co. Got some more information plus statements from Ryan and NORML in there as well. Also coming up on the show today in our Cannabis Business Chronicles, at the end of the show, we're going to be speaking with Jay Timms. He is an African-American man and one of the few minority cannabis business owners in the Southern California area. We're going to discuss that issue. How do we get more inclusion of minorities in cannabis business, and how does cannabis business help the minority communities? So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. In this first hour as well, we've got some drug war data mining for you. We've got the latest numbers on who is financing the opposition to marijuana reform in this country. And some of the names will sound familiar to you as well. We've also got a couple of polls to update you on in Florida and California, plus a new survey out of Canada that's of interest to us. Also on the show, we've got our Cannabis Focus segment where we're going to take a look at trademarks and trademark infringement. It's something that we're having to address now that we're becoming a legal industry. There's a decision that was handed down today that hits hard here in the state of Oregon for a very popular glass artist and glass company. We'll tell you all about that in the Cannabis Focus. But, of course, everything starts off with our Cannabis Radio News. And in the headlines today, again, we'll reiterate that Arkansas Supreme Court decision. We got a terrible story out of my home state of Idaho of a mom who's been busted for treating her epileptic kid with cannabis. We've got a story out of Massachusetts where the campaign for legalization there is complaining about a misleading ad from the opposition. The National Park Service has closed an island off the Southern California coast. We'll tell you why. And a city in Oregon has proposed a marijuana odor ordinance that is raising some eyebrows. Then in hour two, we've got the complete Yes on 64, the Prop 64 teleconference that took place earlier today. We played it live on Cannabis Radio. We'll replay it for you in hour two. The news is next. We're back right after this.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Earn your PhD in THC monetization with CannabisRadio.com. Don't be late.
Dr. Dabber, hurry! Its temperature is shooting past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It's burning up.
I'm afraid for this little guy, it's just too late.
What caused the problem?
Only Dr. Dabber can maintain the perfect temperature for a smooth-tasting, slower burn. This standard vaporizer lost all of its health benefits, sending it up in smoke.
So you're telling me that most vapor pens burn so hot they produce smoke, not vapor?
Correct. Keep away from those standard vaporizer pens and turn to Dr. Dabber. Doctor's orders.
Less heat, more flavor.
It's time to Hemp Present.
I am going to titillate your audio orifices with weekly radio rendezvous with some of the premier movers, shakers, and history makers of the cannabis community.
Radio resident Hempo sapien Vivian McPeak.
I will be putting out a call to action on the issues of the day and putting your interest under the big lights as I provide cannabis commentary and weekly interviews that go straight for the nugular.
Marijuana,
Hemp Present, only on Cannabis Radio.
sweet sativa, Dicker cream.
Get the latest updates on the Russ Belville Show by following Radical Russ on Twitter and liking the Russ Belville Show on Facebook.
Get in on the ground floor of the cannabis industry. Join me at the Oregon Marijuana Business Conference Saturday, November 19th at the Ashland Hills Hotel and Suites in beautiful Southern Oregon. You'll learn the latest on rules and regulations from Oregon Liquor Control Commission Chair Rob Patridge and our lineup of experts in the Oregon cannabis industry and marijuana law. Plus, I'll be interviewing the legendary Tommy Chong in the closing session, who'll also be attending our incredible OMBC VIP after party with a live performance from Del the Funky Homo Sapien.
Finally, someone let me out of my cage.
Get your tickets at OregonMBC.com and hurry because early bird rates won't last long. It's the Oregon Marijuana Business Conference Saturday, November 19th in Ashland, Oregon. OregonMBC.com.
It's time for the Cannabis Radio News, covering the latest headlines in consumer cannabis, medical marijuana, and industrial hemp. Cannabis Radio News is now available exclusively at CannabisRadio.com. Now your marijuana headlines in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. This is Cannabis Radio News.
This is your Cannabis Radio News for Thursday, October 27th, 2016. The Arkansas Supreme Court on Thursday disqualified a medical marijuana proposal from the ballot less than 2 weeks before the election and with thousands of votes already cast, but voters will still be able to consider a competing plan. In a 5-2 ruling, the court sided with opponents of the proposed initiated act, known as Issue 7, that would have allowed patients with certain medical conditions and a doctor's recommendation to purchase marijuana from dispensaries. The proposal was one of 2 medical marijuana proposals on the ballot, and justices earlier this month rejected a challenge to the competing measure. The ruling comes after nearly 142,000 people have already cast ballots through early voting, which began Monday in Arkansas for the general election. Issue 7 spokesman Ryan Denham tells Cannabis Radio that they will be directing supporters to vote for Issue 6, the competing initiative considered stricter than Issue 7, saying, quote, "I know it's a painful call, but it's the best option for patients. Issue 6 is better than nothing." End quote. An Idaho mother is facing charges of misdemeanor injury to a child for treating her 3-year-old daughter's epileptic seizures with cannabis. Kelsey Osborne is distraught after the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare took her children and placed them with her ex-husband. Osborne's daughter, Madison, has had behavioral issues since she was 18 months old, said Osborne. However, earlier this month, Madison started experiencing a seizure, something new to her condition. Worried for her daughter, Osborne made a smoothie infused with marijuana for Madison to drink. 30 minutes later, her seizures subsided. But a doctor's appointment the next day led to tests on Madison that revealed the presence of THC in her system. The doctor called Health and Welfare, leading to Osborne's loss of custody and the criminal charge. Last year, the state legislature had passed a bill allowing the use of low-THC cannabis oil to treat children's seizures. However, Governor Butch Otter vetoed the CBD oil legislation, the first time that had happened after 16 other states had passed similar bills. Idaho is the only one of 13 western states where such CBD oil is illegal for medical purposes. The marijuana legalization campaign in Massachusetts, Yes on Question 4, today charged that the Safe and Healthy Massachusetts campaign is attributing results to a Washington State AAA study that directly contradict the study's own authors. In a press conference held today at the State House, Question 4 opponents repeatedly stated that the Washington study showed increases in driving fatalities due to marijuana-impaired drivers. However, the study's executive summary includes the following language, quote, "Results of this study do not indicate that drivers with detectable THC in their blood at the time of the crash were necessarily impaired by THC or that they were at fault for the crash," end quote. In addition, half of the drivers cited in the study were never tested for any substance. In order to use these drivers in the study, the authors employed a statistical methodology called imputation. However, they were imputing data from years when no marijuana testing was performed on Washington drivers. The National Park Service has closed Santa Rosa Island off the Southern California coast after bundles of marijuana were found there. Officials believe the marijuana discovered Tuesday on the island off Ventura County is linked to a maritime smuggling attempt. The Ventura County Star reports law enforcement officers from several agencies are conducting aerial and ground searches on the island looking for possible suspects. The Park Service said Wednesday that Santa Rosa, part of Channel Islands National Park, will be closed until further notice. The newspaper says the closure could affect more than 70 people booked on an island backpacking trip this weekend. Authorities didn't say how much marijuana was found or who found it. City officials say an Oregon City's marijuana odor ordinance is necessary, but some residents say the law is bound to bring trouble. The Pendleton City Council in June passed an ordinance prohibiting unreasonable amounts of marijuana odors from leaving a property and entering another, the East Oregonian reported. Pendleton attorney Will Perkinson, a member of NORML's legal committee, said the ordinance is too vague and doesn't distinguish between medical and recreational marijuana or properly establish the level of odor a marijuana smell would need to reach to be considered harmful. This has been your Cannabis Radio News for Thursday, October 27th, 2016. I'm Russ Belville.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabis Radio Network.
Oh, let the marijuana llama tell you something now about a game for your phone gonna make you say, wow! The game's about the game of growing cannabis for cash. Grow the seed, sell the bud, put the savings in the stash. Little by little, your empire grows large. Put different celebrities inside your entourage. You can choose to play with Snoop or me or Cheech and Chong, Cypress Hill, Willie Nelson, Wiz Khalifa with a bong. The name of the game is Hemp Inc., that's the point. Download and play while you light yourself a joint. The business of cannabis should be no crime. Hemp Inc. is even hot-proofed by the man who run High Times. Oh yeah? Get it on Android and iOS today. Marijuana llama out. Got to tend to me own crops, you know. Money don't make itself. Hemp Inc.
Our daughter Rebecca could have a seizure at any given time that could take her life.
When you have 200 seizures a day, she gets so scared.
I've learned a lot about the benefits of medical marijuana in the treatment of intractable epilepsy in children. We feel her saying to us, Mom, Dad,
help me.
When is this going to stop? Why don't you, my parents who love me, do something? And we can't.
Please help us help our daughter.
Our daughter Rebecca needs all options for medical marijuana, so please vote yes on Amendment 2.
Marijuana is not addictive, but listening to the Russ Belville Show is.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com.
The world of cannabis is evolving at a frenetic pace. The Russ Belville Show gets behind the headlines to take a deeper look at breaking news in our Cannabis Focus.
Today in the Cannabis Focus, we're taking a look at the issue of trademark infringement. This is brought to us today by a story I picked up out of Fox News, which reports from Law 360. And the story goes that a U.S. District Court judge in New York has ordered an Oregon glass artist by the name of James Landgraf to repay Starbucks almost $420,000. Yes, 420. Almost $420,000 for trademark infringement. It breaks down to actually $410,800. $300,000 for the copyright infringement, $99,000 for trademark infringement, and $11,580 in attorney's fees. And the trademark that he infringed was that of Starbucks, the Pacific Northwest coffee giant. What he had done is he had made a series of bongs called Dabbachinos. And these Dabbachino bongs look incredibly similar to the Starbucks Frappuccinos. Looking at a picture right now, they got the little curve, the little round domed lid like you see on those things, and they're kind of clear. They've got the markings on the side like a Frappuccino container. It's got the logo on the front that mocks the Starbucks logo, looks kind of similar. And the judge today decided that was too much of an infringement, and Starbucks was arguing that the bong, quote, willfully intended to create an association with the Starbucks marks and to capitalize upon their success and popularity of the Starbucks marks to sell their products, end quote. And the Dabbachino bongs were selling from anywhere to $2,000 to $8,000, depending on the model. And of course, now that they've been banned, those prices will probably go up. The value will go up. And Starbucks said that there was a trademark dilution from this that has, quote, caused and will continue to cause irreparable injury and damage to Starbucks Corporation's business, reputation, and goodwill. And it turns out that Starbucks didn't have to fight too hard to get this almost $420,000 because Landgraf, the man being sued, failed to show up to court. He did not show up to defend himself and didn't send a lawyer to represent him. So District Judge Otis D. Wright granted Starbucks a default judgment. We don't know if Landgraf going to court would have helped any because according to the judge's ruling, quote, it is clear from public statements that they intended to create an association with the famous mark. For example, the Dabbachino Series 1 bong is advertised as, quote, taking inspiration from one of America's favorite frozen coffee drinks, end quote, and, quote, easily relatable, end quote. Now, these were they were created by Landgraf. They were sold through Hitman Glass, a very popular glass site on their website. Hitman has removed the bong from their website, but there is still a case against them as well, a separate suit against Hitman Glass. That is still pending. This particular lawsuit, the $410,800 damage, do not apply to Hitman at all. They only apply to Landgraf. Now, as you think about this story, one reaction might be that, hey, come on, Starbucks. You ain't got enough money? I mean, come on now. But this is their trademark, and it is their right. And it's something those of us in the cannabis industry, those of us who are part of this cannabis community, are going to have to start to recognize as marijuana becomes legal. You can't rip off other people's trademarks. Now, this has been kind of the norm for quite a long time. I can't tell you how many different cannabis events, expos, hemp fests, and such that I go to and see trademark infringement rampant throughout all the different vendors. I mean, we're talking Seattle Seahawks logos being misused and repurposed to be about marijuana. We're talking about knockoffs of every different type of brand you could possibly imagine on all sorts of products, not just bongs. And we've been able to kind of get away with this for a while because marijuana was illegal and everything was underground. And even if Starbucks or any of these companies, McDonald's, whoever, sued, who would they sue necessarily? The underground nature of this meant that the artists and the people selling them don't necessarily identify themselves, don't necessarily have corporations or big businesses to sue. But now that we're legal, now that we are enjoying this legal status, these businesses become big targets for lawsuits. So don't rip off the trademarks, people.
What are you people? On dope?
Well, as a matter of fact, Mr. Hand, that sound means that it's 20 after, and that puts it at 4:20 in the Mountain Time Zone. Hey, if you haven't checked it out already, visit weednews.co. I got a great post up there on an 18,863-mile road trip we could take after the election, where it would be all legal roadways. From coast to coast, north to south. Check it out, weednews.co.
Next to THC and CBD, you can now add CBR to your cannabis vernacular. CBR as in cannabisradio.com.
The next generation of vaporizers has arrived. Vuber vaporizers are blazing the way with unparalleled technology for oil, concentrate, or dry flower pens. Providing unsurpassed customer service and expert craftsmanship, Vuber vaporizers use cutting-edge technology, providing a power-packed, smoother vapor with a lifetime guarantee. Experience vaporizing the way it was meant to be, the Vuber way.
Tommy Chong is ready to cut through the smoke and change the tone of Tilk Radio.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong. This is Ray Don on the other mic.
Yes, the eldest. It was
and
awesome.
We saw, it was called Dying to Know.
It's a love story between Ram Dass and Tim Leary.
Yeah, the gay Jew and Tim.
But he wasn't gay when he was a professor. He didn't know.
Yeah, that must have been a shock to his wife.
The one time he, met a vagina.
The Tommy Chong Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to my world.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
We need to build a wall.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
Promoting the end of adult cannabis prohibition is easy because we have facts, science, reason, compassion, evidence, truth, and logic on our side. It's even easier when researchers catalog it all for us. Learn how to gather the facts on marijuana use, arrests, seizures, rehabs, drug tests, and more on this edition of Drug War Data Mining.
Today in the Data Mines, we are looking forward to 12 days away. The Marijuana Election Night 2016 coverage begins live here on CannabisRadio.com at 3 p.m. Pacific Time. And as we look forward to this election, we are taking a look at the polls and the financing for both the support and opposition of the various measures being voted on Marijuana Election Night 2016. We've got some new polls just coming in today to tell you about. In California, the latest public policy poll is come in at 55 to 38 for the support of Proposition 64. Now, the field poll we reported on yesterday was at 60 to 31, so this represents a slightly lower amount of support, but it's a greater amount of support than the Survey USA poll that came out slightly earlier this month at 51 to 40. So I think we're in good shape as far as California goes, being able to pass legalization. Some of the breakdowns on that include 66% support among Democrats, 56% for independents, and only 40% for Republicans. And this also brings up the presidential election, with many people noting that the decline of Donald Trump in the polls may lead to some dispirited Republican voters not showing up. And if that were to happen, it could only bode well for the chances of marijuana legalization throughout the country, since Democrats tend to support it more than Republicans do. As far as the racial breakdowns, Latinos only support Prop 64 at 47%. It's like a plurality, 47-46. Whites at 55%, and other minorities, which would include Asians and African Americans, at 65% support. Regionally, the support is greatest for Prop 64 in the San Francisco Bay Area at 66%. In the Los Angeles, Orange County areas, it's 55%. And in the Inland Empire and Central Valley areas, it's sitting at 51%. Another poll that we've recently gotten on legalization comes out of Massachusetts, where a Suffolk University Boston Globe poll is showing 49-42 support for question 4 there. And some other interesting notes from this poll shows that 66% of the voters, 2/3 of them, say that marijuana legalization will make no difference in whether or not they would decide to use marijuana. And asked whether or not marijuana is safer than alcohol, 40% believe it is safer, 35% believe it is the same as alcohol. And asked about the gateway effect, does the use of marijuana lead to the use of opioids particularly? The people of Massachusetts reject that idea. 53% say no, it is not a gateway, with only 32% saying yes, that it is. And on the medical marijuana side, we've got a new poll coming out of Florida. The FAU College of Business, Florida Atlantic University, comes out with a poll showing 67-30 in support for the Amendment 2 in Florida. Of course, Amendment 2 needs 60% to pass. Now, taking a look at some of the donors, we are unearthing some of the campaign finance information here, and the big news out of this is the discovery that Sheldon Adelson, the casino billionaire from Nevada, is responsible for about 1/3 of all funding for the opposition in all 9 states against marijuana reform measures. We'll take a look first at the state of Arizona, where Sheldon Adelson has contributed $500,000 to go along with Discount Tires $1 million, Insys Therapeutics $500,000, the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industries $500,000, Joanne and Ernie Garcia's contribution of $250,000, Empire Southwest at $150,000, and a few other donors that include U-Haul giving $10,000. Supporters of Arizona's Prop 205 include the Marijuana Policy Project, which has funded over $1 million of the campaign, with another $150,000 coming from Yilo Life, Inc., Arizona Grassroots Dispensary has contributed $135,000, and High Mountain Health has contributed $130,000. In California, of course, the biggest donor to Prop 64 is Sean Parker and affiliates with over $8.5 million. The Fund for Policy Reform has given $4.1 million, and $1.25 million, $1.25 million has been given each by Drug Policy Action, the Drug Policy Alliance's PAC that primarily gets its money from the estate of Peter Lewis, Henry Van Ameringen, and Daniel Lewis. In opposition to Prop 64, we have Julie Schauer, the Pennsylvania retiree, who's donated over $1.3 million. Kevin Sabet's Smart Approaches to Marijuana Action Committee, the SAM Action PAC, has given almost $500,000, and the California Teamsters have donated $25,000 to fight Prop 64. Taking a look now at the state of Maine, the New Approach PAC, again, the Peter Lewis funded PAC, has donated about $1.3 million. Marijuana Policy Project, another $300,000. Rick Steves, the NORML board member and PBS travel celebrity, has donated $100,000. MPP's Foundation, $89,000, and Drug Policy Action, $75,000. There is virtually no funded opposition in Maine. A group called Maine Matters Vote No has donated $8,000, and Mainers Protecting Our Youth and Communities has donated over $1,000. Now, looking to the state of Massachusetts, support there comes from the New Approach PAC at $650,000. Susan Ruiz has donated $150,000. Marijuana Policy Project, $250,000. Rick Steves again with $100,000 for Massachusetts, and Green Partners Management at $20,000. The opponents of Massachusetts Question 4 include Sheldon Adelson again, who's donated $1 million in the Bay State, Partners Healthcare, $100,000, the alcohol industry all combined, $150,000, and some other donations below $20,000. Taking a look at Nevada, the Marijuana Policy Project and its foundation have combined for almost $750,000 worth of donations. ABC ATM has donated $150,000. Law offices of Brian Padgett, $150,000, and New Leaf Capital Investors, $100,000. Primary opponent in Nevada is again Sheldon Adelson, who's donated $2 million. The South Point Hotel and Casino, $50,000. Julie Shower again with $30,000. MGM Resorts International with $25,000, and the Boyd Gaming Corporation at $10,000. Now, taking a look at the medical marijuana issues that are out there, and with Arkansas, I'm combining the donations for and against both issues. In the case of Arkansas, the Bevins Family Limited Partnership has donated $449,000, Broadleaf PSG $430,000, and then the rest of the donations, Drug Policy Alliance and Marijuana Policy Project, $25,000 each, New Approach PAC, $12,500. The opponents of Arkansas medical marijuana include the Arkansas Farm Bureau Federation, Governor Asa Hutchinson's PAC, Arkansas Heart Hospital, and Stevens Investment Holdings, which have all donated $20,000, plus the Arkansas Hospital Association donating $10,000. In Florida, the law firm of John Morgan has donated $2.6 million, Barbara Stiefel $245,000, the Florida Democratic Party $200,000, John Curtin $50,000, and AltMed LLC, a little less than $35,000. Opponents there include Sheldon Adelson again, $1.5 million. His friend Mel Sembler has donated $1 million. The Carol Jenkins Barnett Family Trust, the trust that is part of the Publix grocery chain, $800,000. Then taking a look at Montana, the primary supporters are all individuals except Lionheart International, which donated $8,000. People Aaron Bolster and Denise Zielli have each donated $10,000. Lenny Brown and Mike Mason each donated $5,000. Primary opponent in Montana is car dealer Stephen Zabawa, who has contributed $125,000 in opposition. The rest of the donations are below $1,500. In North Dakota, the Marijuana Policy Project has contributed $2,600. Anita Morgan, $1,600. Craig Russell, $420. And there is no funded opposition in the state of North Dakota for the medical marijuana Measure 5. And in other news, having nothing to do with our election, there's a new poll in Canada from Deloitte LLP and the National Post showing Canadian support for marijuana legalization sitting at 40 to 36, with equal numbers, 21% that are strongly yes and strongly no. That's your Drug War data mining donor and polling update for Marijuana Election Night 2016. When we return, we'll be speaking with Ryan Denham from Arkansans for Compassionate Care and his take on the disqualification of medical marijuana, Issue 7.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
I think it was my second year in the league when I had my first injury. That's when I started using painkillers, and I was using them daily, pretty much the rest of my career. It takes its toll. It's taken too many of those things. Once I retired, I got rid of those. I moved out here to Arizona, got my medical card, and been using marijuana ever since. Someone like me can afford to be a medical marijuana patient, but others aren't so lucky. Marijuana should be available to all adults who need it. I'm voting yes on Prop 205 and hope you will too.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I opted for convenience to use my personal email account.
Okay, maybe you're high too.
Hey everybody, it's Radical Russ here from 420 Radio, inviting you to be like me and get your ink done at Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo, Fort Worth's most female-friendly, clean, sterile, awesome tattoo shop. Thomas and his crew are true artists who can design you a custom piece or use a design you bring in. Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo also offers all styles of tattooing as well as piercings and all-around fun. In the DFW area, stop by Lucky Horseshoe Tattoo and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Trust me, it'll feel awesome.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back. Today in our activist agenda, we're rejoined by the gentleman who joined us yesterday for this segment of the show. Ryan Denham from Arkansans for Compassionate Care is with us. And Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Russ.
You know, I wish we could have gotten you back for some better news, but of course we led with the story today that I picked up this morning when I first woke up, and that is the sad news of the Arkansas Supreme Court invalidating Issue 7. Can you fill our listeners in on some of the details of that? What exactly happened here?
Yeah, so, obviously some pretty devastating news for us. About 9, 10 o'clock this morning, we were informed that the Supreme Court of Arkansas kicked Issue 7 off the ballot. And it's really kind of crazy, and for them to, early voting has been going on since Monday. So hundreds of thousands of people have already cast their vote for Issue 7 and or Issue 6. And it's just insane that they could come out with a ruling in the middle of, early voting. But, a lot of this hinged on what was a technical versus a clerical error. There's a lot of different things canvassers had to fill out. Every signature that they counted was indeed a valid signature, and these signers filled out these signatures on the correct form. So, we had the signatures, and, this other side has sued us to kick us off. The other interesting thing to note, Russ, is that state law actually changed twice while we were getting signatures. So we had a very complicated web to go through. So we actually had 3 different signature state laws that we had to navigate throughout this process, and that also proved to be quite complicated.
Now, for people that don't know, the governor of Arkansas is Asa Hutchinson. He was a former DEA administrator. Is there any evidence or concern that he might have had a hand in this, or that there's some sort of shenanigans going on to try to get your initiative disqualified?
Yeah, I don't want to speculate too far, but, obviously Asa Hutchinson, former DEA administrator, was completely against our initiative. He's put pressure on multiple state agencies to oppose us. So, I don't want to speculate any further, but, they threw everything they had at us. And, we're going to continue to fight this. Our attorney is looking into this right now and seeing what our options are. In the meantime, we've made the tough decision, I think the smart decision, to tell people to vote yes on both initiatives to ensure, at least something passes.
Now, this is troubling to me because, as you mentioned, early voting's been going on since Monday. The reports I've seen have said there's been about 142,000 people that have already voted. And the concern would be that there could be some of them out there who preferred Issue 7 and may have voted for Issue 7 and against Issue 6, who would have voted for Issue 6 if it was the only thing available. Is that something that might be a concern for you guys and maybe a part of a lawsuit?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen dozens of comments, on social media, people like, well, can I go back and switch my vote to 6 now? And, obviously you can't do that. And that's why we were, asking people to vote for both, from the beginning. But yeah, it's really insane that a court could make a ruling, in the middle of early voting. I don't think they should have taken the case to begin with because it was so late in the game to even, try to look at this entire case. So, we're having our attorney look at it and seeing what our options are, but, we're trying to stay positive as much as possible and tell people to go out there and think about the patients, think about, person that really needs this medicine. And, it's a difficult decision for a lot of our volunteers that have worked so hard on this campaign, and especially to support 6 for a lot of these people when that's the group that sued us. But we're telling people to think critically, to go out and support both, and think about the patients that have so much in jeopardy right now.
Exactly. It's difficult for people that put so much of their heart and soul into an initiative campaign like this to understand it, but you can't take it personally. You have to look at the bigger picture, and that is what is going to help the patients out. Your guys' next shot, if 6 is to fail, your next shot is probably what, 2020?
Yeah, 2018 or 2020. 2020 is probably the better route to go with being a presidential election. But, it's a long time for patients to wait, obviously. This isn't, as you know, Russ, this isn't just a political campaign. This is a life or death situation for many people out there. And that's why it's just tragic that this other group would try to come on, sue us, run a competing campaign. Because we really had the Dream Team campaign. I strongly believe that our campaign would have passed no problem if we were the only ones on the ballot. But to have to deal with a competing campaign and to fight all these opposition groups, it was just it was a lot to deal with.
Now, you mentioned the suit coming from the competing campaign. The suit itself was filed by Kara Benka, a NORML legal committee lifetime member there in Arkansas. But you do believe that they were in collusion with the Issue 6 campaign? Well,
the attorney that works for Issue 6 said that he provided information to the other campaign. So, that's the only connection I can actually make right there. Okay. But, it's pretty clear that they had, a lot to do with it.
All right. So what is the campaign's move now? Have you filed a lawsuit? Are you going to file a lawsuit? And could really anything be done in time to save Issue 7 for the election?
I'm not sure. I mean, we've heard, some people some legal scholars have chimed in and told us that they can't, kick you off while early voting is actually going on, that this should have been decided before this. I don't know if that to be true or not. Unfortunately, our attorney's been tied up in a really important court case in another state today. So he's, he's actually still in court right now, as far as I understand. So he hasn't had a significant amount of time to look into this for us yet. And we're a grassroots campaign. We've existed on small donations this entire time. So, we don't have these big special interest money to run this massive campaign. So we've came really far. But the move now is, like I said, get out there, continue to vote for both issues. So that will ensure no matter what happens, something will pass. But, Russ, the unfortunate thing is, this is all over the news. People are saying Issue 7 is kicked off the ballot. There's signs at the polling locations. So that's certainly going to dip down our support for Issue 7 right now, even if we do somehow continue to stay on the ballot.
Wow. All right. So the other thing I wanted to mention here, in researching this morning, I found comments from the Governor Hutchinson, saying that this is a reason why the petitioning rules need to be changed. The deadlines need to be moved further back, so that when there is a problem, we don't run into this overlap. Is that something you agree with or have heard about?
Yeah, I mean, I might be open to that. I mean, it is possible that the deadlines might be too close. We actually turned in quite a bit before our original deadline, so I don't know if that really would have made a difference in our case. But the other campaigns turned in, at the last minute. But just a few years ago, they've actually changed the initiative process twice in response, not really to our campaigns, but other big special interest campaigns that have had problems. So, it's unfortunate. It's an attack on democracy, and, we're going to fight to maintain a strong initiative process. If it needs to be tweaked a little bit, that's possible, but we want to make sure that the bulk of our initiative rights are sustained.
Another related story to this is word from one of the Arkansas legislators that said he plans to file a bill for a more limited, maybe a CBD oil type of medical marijuana through legislation should Issue 6 fail. Is that a worry for the campaign that it might undercut some of the support for passing something more broad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was obviously politically motivated. This representative, we don't have a session going on right now, so it's not actually filed as a bill, but, this guy's saying that he's going to file it, next year when the session starts. But, clearly, a last-ditched attempt to try to make some voters on the fence, think that, hey, the legislature can take care of this, so I don't need to vote for either of these initiatives. So, it's sad that, they tried to do that at the last minute. This representative, could have introduced a bill, a few years ago or could have talked to us about, a stronger medical cannabis bill. And, I think this is probably, pressure from the governor to try to sway voters at the last minute.
Yeah, we saw a similar experience in Ohio after its legalization failed in 2015 when MPP came back in 2016 with a medical campaign. Their legislature undercut them by passing a terrible medical marijuana law, a very limited one. So we hope that doesn't happen for you in Arkansas, and we wish you the best of luck on getting something passed. We hope something good happens for 7, but if it's got to be issue 6, folks, vote for that. It's better than nothing. Ryan Denham from Arkansans for Compassionate Care, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck on everything.
All right, thanks so much, Russ.
You're welcome. All right, stay tuned, folks. When we come back, we're going to be speaking to Mr. J. Timms out of Southern California, an African-American cannabis business owner looking to increase minority inclusion and community support from cannabis businesses. I'm Radical Russ, the Russ Belville Show here on Cannabis Radio, live from Portland, Oregon.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
From dabs to chivas, sativas to indicas, we roll out a whole concentrate of fresh new content every week. It's like going from the greenhouse to the dispensary. CannabisRadio.com.
Cash?
Sorry.
I don't carry around cash, and I don't want to use the ATM and pay surcharges.
You don't need to carry cash. Haven't you heard about PayQuick?
Okay, tell me about PayQuick.
It's the safe and easy way to pay. It works just like your debit card to securely pay for your purchase, and it gives you rewards points every time you use it.
Nice.
PayQuick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
Chronicling the latest cannabis industry news and headlines.
Well, with 4 states with tax and regulate and the District of Columbia.
The state of cannabis.
Oh my God, it's refreshing. We have people that generally wouldn't speak on behalf of cannabis for fear of retribution, fear of losing your practices, fear of many of those things, and find ourselves in a place that we finally can.
Bringing you fact-based news and views and keeping listeners on the pulse of what's happening in the industry today. The state of cannabis. On demand anytime, only on CannabisRadio.com.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Adrian, I finished it. Adrian.
Okay, maybe you're high too.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. Mark Twain once said that when there's a gold rush, it's a good time to be in the pick and shovel business. Today we look at the rapidly evolving markets in the marijuana green rush in our Cannabusiness Chronicles. Welcome back, everybody. Today in the Cannabusiness Chronicles, we're going to be speaking with Mr. J. Timms from Southern California. Jay, welcome to the show.
Russ, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's going great. I'm glad to have you here, and I'm really excited about this topic because it's something that's of great concern to those of us in the reform community, and that is the developing cannabis businesses and how we can have more inclusion and more support for the communities that have been most impacted by this war on drugs. But before we get to the topic, let's tell folks a little bit about you. You are a licensed medical marijuana caregiver and cultivator, graduate of University of Houston. Tell folks a little bit about your background in the medical marijuana field.
So, well, kind of starting out, I actually started out in the pharmaceutical / biotech industry. So, and let me take it back a little bit. Before I actually got into the medical marijuana business, I actually was, I'll be honest, I was against it. I'm coming from the pharmaceutical industry, and looking at it totally different. I was actually at a conference probably about 2.5, 3 years ago up in Vancouver, where a lot of neurologists got together, and it was focused on epilepsy and actually using medical marijuana with pediatrics. Great talk. Once I kind of got back home and really started thinking about this, I started doing more research, started learning about the cannabinoid system and things of that nature. And I mean, I saw the light. So I really, took more of a stance and moving more into this type of alternative medication instead of dealing with the pharmaceuticals, which actually lead to more side effects and things of that nature.
So coming from the pharmaceutical industry, this gives you an interesting perspective because from our side of this, we've seen the pharmaceutical industry kind of being in opposition to medical cannabis, even to the point now where they're making large six-figure donations to try to defeat legalization and medical marijuana initiatives. Do you think there's going to be a time where they come around to this, where they might embrace cannabinoid medicines, or is this too much of a threat to their bottom line?
Well, right now it's too much of a threat because they really can't control it. So, but once they actually figure out something where they can have more control, they'll definitely jump in. You have a couple of companies actually researching now for certain disease states, but they're a little ways off.
All right. And the other thing that people think about in this area, in this subject, happens to do with the opioid crisis that we're facing in a lot of states, many of them having too many overdoses, too much addiction. And recent reports have shown that the DEA has kind of let this happen. They've let the companies, the pharmaceutical giants, manufacture more and more and more of this. Talk about that aspect in pain management and how you feel cannabis might affect that.
Right. I actually come from pain management. I've dealt with several opioids back in the day. And, there definitely is a rise when you're looking at, the habit forming of opioids. Matter of fact, I actually have a couple of friends who have opened up new rehab facilities just specifically for that particular situation. Mm-hmm. So, pharmaceutical companies have done a great job, and I hate to use this term, but greasing palms with the FDA to kind of get things through. They know the problem is there. They know it exists. They also know that, medicinal marijuana doesn't have that issue. But once again, since they're not making money off of it, they're going to keep on getting us a pushback.
Now, tell folks about what you're doing now in Southern California in the medical marijuana field as far as the cannabis business goes.
Right. Okay. So right now, like I said, I'm a cultivator and also licensed caretaker. I have actually developed relationships with a few physicians in the area. They're a little different. It's a great area still. You have guys who believe, you have guys who don't believe. I do a few hepatologists, also endocrinologists out in this area, and I actually take care of some of their patients.
Excellent. Now, one of the concerns that we have as the cannabis industry is developing, and Michelle Alexander, the author of The New Jim Crow, points this out and says that, for the history of the war on drugs, it was minorities, blacks and Latinos that were selling and growing and distributing. And now that it's becoming legal, they're kind of being locked out of the industry thanks to licensing requirements that ban felons or other requirements. As one of the few licensed African Americans in this industry in Southern California, what would you like to see happen to try to improve this situation?
I would like to see more awareness, and that's actually what I'm trying to do, is actually spread that awareness. Let them know that there is an opportunity for minorities to actually become owners in this business. When you look at especially African Americans in any industry as a whole, we tend to be at the top of the consumption curve, but at the bottom of the ownership curve. And I'm actually trying to switch that. For example, and we're looking at Colorado. White male population is about 35%, but they make up nearly 2/3 of dispensary license holders. Overall, whites make up a total of about 84% of dispensary ownership out there. And then there's Wanda James, which I know you're familiar with her.
Wanda.
The only African American female dispensary owner out there. Another thing I like to point out also is the fact that there's a study from 2001 to about 2010, and it shows that actually blacks and whites probably consume about the same amount of marijuana, but at the same time, blacks are actually 4 times more likely to be arrested. So that's definitely a lopsided statistic right there. So once again, I'm trying to really put awareness out there so these African-American entrepreneurs are looking for different business opportunities within the marijuana industry.
As the cities and the states are trying to deal with this issue, there's been some suggestions as to how this could be improved. One way, of course, would be to remove barriers like the ban on previous felons getting licenses and so forth. But there's also been some offers of some affirmative type of positive developments or actually helping African Americans and other minorities to get these licenses. Particularly, I'm speaking of Oakland, where the city council is proposed a controversial licensing scheme that would favor people that were coming from particular neighborhoods or who had been impacted by the drug war. Do you think those kind of moves, more affirmative action types of licensing schemes, could help, or would they be more controversial?
You know what? There are pros and cons to that. I definitely see the positive of it, but then I see the negative coming from the other side. With those type of moves, that definitely would get African Americans. Let me stop saying that. Let me say minorities in general more motivated to actually get into the business legally.
Okay. And one other thing I wanted to mention, as I was looking at your biography, I saw that you got a degree in kinesiology from University of Houston, kinesiology, study of exercise, physical fitness, and so forth. And we're also getting more awareness now for athletes, particularly martial arts and football, on the use of cannabis to be able to deal with some of the pain, the training, and, of course, the head trauma that's involved there. Is that something that you've found in your background with kinesiology and the athletes that you've worked with?
So I've actually trained a couple of ex-NFL players, and since this was developed, they've actually been indulging a little more, and they definitely see the results. The anti-inflammatory properties, the whole pain relief properties, they're seeing the results. So that's another thing. I would like to see more studies done on that. But we're seeing positive results.
All right. Well, we're speaking with Mr. Jay Timms in Southern California, and we're starting to run up against the back of the hour, so I want to make sure that you get a chance to give people any contact information, websites, or other stuff that you'd like them to know about yourself and your business.
Thanks, Russ. Yeah, I can be reached at Mr. J Timms, and let me go ahead and spell that out because it might be some of you guys out there smoking right now. That's MRJAYTIMMS. And that's Instagram, Facebook, also my website as well. So at Mr. J. Timms.
Excellent. You can always email me, radicalruss@gmail.com. If you miss any of that stuff, I'll send you the information you need to know. And last thing, Jay, Proposition 64 is on the ballot, and we're just 12 days away from the election.
Yes.
Is this something that you're standing for? Are you for Proposition 64?
Definitely. Matter of fact, let me give you a quick story. So as I was actually sitting here waiting for your studio to actually call me, Arsenio Hall actually walked past, and this is no joke. Arsenio Hall walks past. I rolled down my window. I say, "Hey, Prop 64," and he gives me the thumbs up. So I'm definitely for it. So there are pros and cons with Prop 64, but I see more pro than con. And the reason being, it's a starting point. We're not going to sit here and say that it's perfect, but it's definitely a starting point. We can look at, Obamacare, people going back and forth with that. Once again, that was a starting point as well. It had its glitches. Prop 64 is going to have its glitches. But we need to get to a point where we're moving forward out of that gray area, moving forward to federal legalization.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Mr. J. Timms, for joining us here on the show. And follow him at Mr. J. TIMMS, Mr. J. Timms. Thanks, Jay, and we'll talk to you again sometime.
Thank you, Russ. I appreciate it.
You betcha. Well, folks, that's all the time we got for Hour 1, but stay tuned. Hour 2 is coming up, and this one's a special one because we've got the complete Prop 64 question and answer teleconference that took place earlier today, and I managed to get 2 or 3 questions in as well. It features Tamar Todd, Lynn Lyman, and Deborah Small. For everyone here at CannabisRadio.com, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for Hour 2. Toker Talk Radio is next. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it.